This is Abundantly Clear, a Malorie Nicole podcast designed to help you further understand the concept of abundance and put it into practice to build the business and life of your dreams. We'll be breaking barriers of conditioned belief, the standard rules of marketing, and empowering you to achieve real success, allowing you to make a greater impact and live a fulfilled, purpose-driven life with ease. Welcome to the conversation, the stories, the science, and the synergy of living life abundantly clear. Now, on to today's episode.
Welcome back to this week's episode of Abundantly Clear. An estimated 75 to 90% of all doctor visits are for stress-related issues. I believe that stress is one of the most untalked about, unspoken topics of the entrepreneurial world. I hear people say this all the time, and it's something to the effect of, when I decided to become an entrepreneur, I was accepting that I was going to have to work nonstop in order to produce and grow my business. The problem is that people will give themselves permission to do this in the beginning. Maybe they'll spend the first 90 days working a little harder to get something off the ground, or still in their full-time job while they're building something on the side. But 3 years later, there's still no boundaries with time. They're still hustling. They're still working Saturdays and Sundays. They still don't have a stop meter at the end of the day. They build businesses, they find monetary success, yet they don't feel happy, fulfilled, their goals keep growing, and they're pushing and pushing and pushing to get to that next level version of themselves, and they find themselves spinning on a hamster wheel. So let's talk about stress, and let's talk about how the body and the mind have a congruent relationship with stress. In every single one of our bodies, we have something called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve has two bunches of sensory nerve cell bodies. It connects the brainstem to the body, and it allows the brain to monitor and receive information about several of the body's different functions. It's connected to the heart, the lungs, the stomach, the spleen. It's really connected to every single one of the bodily organs except the adrenal glands and some skeletal muscles like the muscle in the larynx and our throat. Helps regulate heartbeat, helps control muscle movement, maintains pace of breathing, which is vitally essential, facilitates relaxation after stressful situations, sends sensory information to the brain about organ status. It's responsible for rest and digest and slowing down the heart rate and controlling homeostasis. It's really, really important. And it is what is connected to the vagus nerve. These nerves carry electrical impulses. And we know that electricity is a form of energy. So really, in your body, you've got energy moving through your body all the time. New research has even revealed that it might be the missing link to chronic inflammation and incurable disease. It's the longest, the vagus nerve is the longest of the cranial nerves. But these electrical impulses are not just carrying energy, which in itself is super, super powerful. It's actually carrying a set of instructions for the body to follow. So it tells us what to do, how hard to work, what enzymes to make. And it stands to reason that energy is vital to sustain living. So, to backtrack, the vagus nerve is responsible. It controls your inner nerve center, which is the parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system is what keeps your body working. So then let's talk about one of the other parts of the nervous system, and that is the sympathetic. The sympathetic is the fight or flight. When the body feels like it's at a threat, it keeps it safe. The sympathetic nervous system prepares us for action. So it mainly feeds hormones and adrenaline and cortisol. Chronic stress and anxiety cause an increase in glutamate in the brain, which is a neurotransmitter that, when produced in excess, causes migraines, depression, and anxiety. But I'm going to backtrack just for a second. The sympathetic nervous system is really interesting because the sympathetic nervous system is basically waiting for you to tell it if you're in danger or if you're not in danger. Because as far as it's concerned, if you start feeling stress, the body is basically telling itself that you're out in the woods running from a bear, and that you have no food, and that you're in danger. The body doesn't know that you just read an email from a client, or you just read an email from a coworker, and that's actually what ignited the stress. So reading an email is actually telling the body that it needs to go into this crazy state of fight or flight. All because you read an email that caused stress. And then when you go into fight or flight, what you do is you turn the parasympathetic nervous system off, which puts you into chronic stress and anxiety. And when you go into chronic stress and anxiety, it increases glutamate in the brain, which is the neurotransmitter, when produced in excess, that causes depression. So stress is actually linked to depression. There's a close connection between chronic stress, immune functioning, and inflammation. So stress also causes inflammation. Because of course, if the parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for sending those messages to the body and sending that energy into the system and telling the body what to do, how hard to work, what enzymes to make, and it's that set of instructions. If the parasympathetic nervous system isn't working because the sympathetic nervous system is always on and your body's always in fight or flight producing cortisol, then you're going to create inflammation in your system because your system thinks you're always running from the bear. And some of us are more susceptible to chronic stress than others. Our natural brain states are all very different. But when the brain's stress response fails to shut off, our stress chemicals, cortisol and adrenaline, remain elevated, and our feel-good chemicals, serotonin and dopamine, are suppressed. So if you think about it, the vagus nerve could really be looked at as the potential off switch for disease. It is like a two-way radio communication system, helping you stay in touch and keeping your body in homeostasis. So even that thing that you hear sometimes about gut instinct, feeling that gut instinct, it's not fluff, it's not a fantasy, it's real, because what it actually is your nervous signals through your vagus nerve that are telling your stomach and sending those electrical impulses to work. Fascinating, right? So, what does this have to do with thought and belief? Well, we're in control of the way we experience. And if we bring a set of a mental model to where everything that we experience feels stressful, what is actually happening? Well, now you know. What's actually happening is you've just turned your body's ability to work at an optimal level off. Because the belief system that you're bringing into your work and the belief system that you're bringing into your business is also harming other parts of your life. And this is why it's very important. We can't really compartmentalize business and self. They are one and the same. Self reflects in business, and business reflects in self. They're the same thing. We are our business. So if we don't address the things that we need to address in our belief system, and we keep up with the brain loops that we know are causing us more harm than they are good, and that doubt, frustration, if you find yourself feeling frustrated all the time, it's a good chance you're operating from fight or flight. And though it might not seem like a big deal, the way your programming is and the way that your thoughts are operating, it's not just affecting the one area that you might think it could be affecting. It's not just affecting your business, it's also affecting your health. And if your health is affected, we don't know what the long-term effects are of that, right? We're not really sure. We can't predict the future. But if we know that the vagus nerve is actually looked at in science as the potential off switch for disease, then how important is it for us to address our mindset issues for the long-term game of our health, for our families, for our relationships, and for our business, right? It's really, really important because the lens that we're looking through an experience is ultimately what matters. Two people could read the same email. Person A could be totally triggered by it. It could cause a bunch of stress. It could even enhance their ability to breathe in a moment. Person B, they could read it and not feel any effects from it at all. Two people could experience the same thing, but have completely different outcomes from it. Say both people just signed on 5 new clients in one day. Person A could be completely overwhelmed by that, immediately feel all the pressure in the world to deliver. How are they going to handle it? What are they going to do with their time? How are they going to deliver? Person B could be super excited about it, super thrilled and energetic, and feel a calm state of mind and joy of fulfillment that they just opened up that door of abundance into their life. So the way that you're experiencing all goes back to the way that you think. The circumstances don't change. It's the way we perceive them that do. And the way that we perceive things allows us to change our behavior, and then we change our circumstance. One thing you can do, leaving and wrapping this podcast episode up, one thing you can do to make sure that you are not operating in fight or flight all day long as you're showing up to your business, as you are doing your work, make sure you're breathing. Make sure you're breathing. In fact, take a big, deep breath while you're here on this episode. And breathe in through your belly, not your chest. Put one hand on the chest and one hand on the belly. And fill up the belly with air. And as you fill up the belly with air, what will actually happen is the chest will concave a little bit. And as you release, the chest will move out and the belly will move in. We often breathe from our chest, not realizing what we're actually doing. And when we learn to breathe through our belly, we allow the parasympathetic nervous system to be on. And if you think about it this way, it's very simple. If you're running through the woods getting chased by a bear, or if you're reading an email that's triggering you, remember, because the body doesn't know any different. If you start breathing slow, then the mind hears and then knows you're not actually getting chased by a bear, because if you were getting chased by a bear, you wouldn't be breathing the way that you are. So breathing is essential to our health, our wellness, and to living an abundantly clear life. I hope you found this valuable. Until next week, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for listening. As you put these concepts and practices into action, you'll begin to see the benefits of living an abundantly clear life. To connect with Malorie and other high performers, join the Abundantly Clear Entrepreneurs community on Facebook or visit malorie-nicole.com.